Back at Queensland Raceway with the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series, and Steve Owen, the championship leader, took a great win in race 2, overcame the reverse grid format and lines up for pole for race 3.
Steve Owen, top job, starting from 9th on that reverse grid race. Looking good for another round win here. How much would it mean to you to claim the second round win from 2 rounds?
It's what you come here to do, you know. It's you've got everyone in pit lane watching your job, and if I don't win, they sort of go, well, there's the bloke who drives a Wing Cup, what's his story, you know? So I feel like I have to win, but at the same time, the championship's our main priority, so if we finish second to someone who's not in championship contention this weekend, as long as our championship lead's extended, that's all that matters.
Good luck.
Thank you.
But the big talking point from race 2 was this: McLaughlin, nailed by Owen Kelly. The Fujitsu Falcon is too badly damaged. It's out for race 3 and the rest of the weekend.
For me, being a first timer, I've been taught just to pull the handbrake, which holds the car in place so it doesn't creep forward. Bring the clutch to its grab point and hold it there. But as I've brought that up, it's fried the clutch, obviously, and as I've had 30% throttle, it's just lost revs and stalled. So it's one of those things. But you know, it's many drivers have difficulties trying to get it off the line, and I know I'm not the only one that's stalled off the line, been hit from behind. So I just got to keep my head up high and work on them starts.
Well, everywhere you look in V8 Supercar pit lane, there's brothers to be found. There's Ross and Jim Stone, who own Stone Brothers Racing. There's Rick and Todd Kelly, who drive the Jack Daniels Commodores. And there's also the Davo boys, Will and Alex, who drive for HRT and SBR respectively. And the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series follows its big brother, the V8 Supercar Championship Series, in so many ways, but it also follows in terms of pairs of brothers. And there's another young group of brothers, Drew and his younger 17-year-old brother, Aaron Russell from Newcastle. They might not be household names just yet, but one day they hope to be stars in supercar racing.
Well, I went over to New Zealand when I was 15 and got my race licence over there and raced over there for a season. Then I came back over to Australia and raced production cars for about 3 or 4 years. And then I basically stepped straight up into the Fujitsu V8s. I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
Last year I was running Formula Vs in a New South Wales State Series. Basically the comparison is one has 600 horsepower, which is the V8. My Formula V had 50.
I mean, it all started with, we own a go-kart centre, so the kids have raced and driven go-karts since they were basically 2.5 years old. So, with my racing and everything else we've done, it was a bit hard to say no to them when they told me they wanted to race cars. What do you do at that stage?
The boy's father, Wayne, himself a former V8 supercar racer, heads up the team, which operates with a small volunteer crew and on an extremely tight budget.
The kids work so hard. They both work at the go-kart centre nowadays. They're working 60, 70 hours a week just to help put the cars on the track. They don't take wages. So it's a real family thing. And yeah, I couldn't be more proud of what these kids achieve.
It's a bit hard to compare myself to all these cars, you know. They come from AAA. Paul Morris across from us, you know, car of the round main game this year. How do you compare yourself with that? We're running 3-year-old cars and we're on a budget that probably they spend more this round than we do in the whole season.
For us, with budget, it's very much a round-by-round thing. You know, we scrape together the funds between each round to make sure we get there. So, you know, any meeting that I go to, I feel extremely privileged to go to, and I can only just hope that I get to the next one.
As a small team, privateer team, I mean, we're battling. We're always going to battle. We've just got to try and achieve what we can achieve and do the best results that we got and show that we can actually produce the car and produce the driver. So that's what it's about, it's producing the driver and fly the flag, and hopefully the kids will get noticed and get some tests with some other teams and move them on and save Dad some money.
Stay with us, the third and final race from Queensland Raceway is after the break. Back at Queensland Raceway with the final race in round 2 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. The grid for this race determined by the finishing results of races 1 and 2. So Steve Owen will start from pole, and Paul Morris, after that fight-back drive in race 2, lands on the front row of the grid.
Certainly does, with Jack Perkins off third. So 3 main game guys that we talked about all weekend about coming into the Fujitsu Series and giving the young guys a run for their money up the front.
Rodney Jane and Tim Blanchard, the 2 Sonic cars, will start alongside one another. Matthew Hamilton doing a good job, the young rookie in the Team Kiwi Falcon. Marcus Sukanovic struggling this weekend in the Action Commodore. Owen Kelly, that car repair, they've done a lot of work on the left front to get that car on the grid for this race. Ryan Hansford and Phil Foster down the back of the grid. Of course, Scott McLaughlin will take no further part. Green flag at the back. Round 2 is on the line. Jack Perkins has decided to use his best set of tyres for this third and final race. Let's see how that plays out. Great start from Owen. Morris bolts it down. David Russell, the Jayco Falcon, has got moving and he's trying to get across and he's done a great job. He's through to second.
Great job to get across from the outside to the inside and cover off Jack Perkins, who also got a great start up the inside of Paul Morris. So Morris from second on the grid back to fourth. He'll be kicking himself just a bit too much wheel spin off the line.
And what do you do if you're Jack Perkins? Your boss is behind you. Do you let him by and get paid next week?
No, you get on with it, don't you? You put your eyes forward and go after David Russell and Steve Owen.
And Pedersen there picking up some backing this weekend from VIP Pet Foods. But it's Owen who leads the way. There's Nick Percat making a lunge on Rodney Jane, and Pedersen just drops off the road. But this is ironic because Percat still works for the Sonic team, helping them run their Formula Fords.
Yeah, Percat will not want to run into Rodney Jane's car because he'll have to fix it next week. So Nick obviously trying to get a run and get away from the middle of the pack. We see James Moffat just elbowed wide and loses 2 spots there. Owen Kelly and Jeff Emery up the inside.
And Owen Kelly lost 15 championship points as a result of that contact with Moffat, which is all irrelevant really because Morris is down the inside, takes third spot from David Russell, and he'll start this fight through. But Steve Owen, longer race distance in race 3, 22 laps ahead. And Steve Owen, with his experience, so well placed for a car that changes over a run.
Well, this is a great opportunity for the whole field to run a longer distance. This is about a stint length in the main game. So about 22 laps, about 80 litres of fuel worth that what we're using in the main game now. So these guys need to learn how to make the tyre live. Running over the curb like that won't help the tyre live, but try and make the tyre live for the entirety of the 22 laps.
A replay of the start. Great jump. David Russell, who has been a bit slow away in terms of the championship this year. We expected probably a bit better from the Matthew White Motorsport driver, but he's fighting back now. It's a long year, 7 rounds ahead. It all culminates at the Sydney Telstra 500 in December. But James Moffat struggling in the mid-pack. This car, which is run by Ford Rising Stars Racing out of the FPR workshop, it just doesn't have pace this weekend.
Just not hooking up at all, and that's an FPR car. That's a full-house FPR car run by FPR, and they would have expected to be much more competitive here this weekend. So Moff struggling, but that's all part of the learning curve, and no doubt he'll bounce back at the next round.
They've thrown some drastic setup changes for this final race. They consider that we've really got nothing to lose. He's changing his driving style, very different from the 888 car that he ran last year, which is being driven now by Tim Blanchard as he follows Owen Kelly through. Down the outside, that's Marcus Sukanovic, who of course is back in the Fujitsu series this year after a season away with injuries from a testing crash, and I'm just not convinced that Moffat car looks terrible.
Very, very oversteery coming out of turn 3. And what we will also see in race 3 is the tyre strategy. We talked about it in race 2, where guys have to make 2 sets of tyres last for 3 races. So some guys who used all their best tyres as in race 1 and 2 probably haven't got a lot left for race 3, whereas guys like Owen Kelly, who actually didn't even do race 2 after that start line crash, he'll have a full set of fresh tyres. He'll be able to charge through this field.
Owen Kelly down the inside on young Matthew Hamilton. The Team Kiwi Falcon, this is a car run by Matthew White's team. They run 3 cars in the Fujitsu series. Matthew's come from mini challenge racing in New Zealand, a big step up, but has made some gains this weekend and has really improved. They've changed the brakes master cylinder in this car just to help him with his feeling and his control over the brake pedal.
Yeah, you can change the master cylinder size, which changes the amount of effort that you use through your leg for pushing the brake pedal. So a young guy like Matthew, who's come out of minis, jumped into a massive big V8 supercar, wouldn't be used to the amount of leg pressure that you have to use, the amount of pedal pressure you need to use to stop these cars. So probably a bigger master cylinder going into those cars hopefully means that he'll push the pedal less but still get the same braking force.
Nick Percat here under fire from Tim Blanchard in the Sonic Falcon. This team, J Motorsport, runs this XHRT car. They're based in South Australia. Sonic Motor Racing, well versed in the junior categories. They've been in Porsche Carrera Cup, Formula Ford, and were very successful in the step up into the Fujitsu series. And Rodney Jane's having a really good, strong run this weekend.
Certainly is, and we've spoken about it all weekend. An ex-888 car, so a car well suited to Queensland Raceway, but you've still got to drive it. Rodney's doing a great job.
Jack Perkins is on the charts. He's closed the margin to our race leader, Steve Owen. Will Davison, your teammate from the Toll Holden Racing team, watching on. But we said about Jack Perkins and his tyre strategy, it looks like it's come to play.
Certainly has, and we think that Steve used his best tyres in race 2, his second set of tyres in race 2, to catapult him up to the front of the field and take advantage of that reverse grid race. And Jack finished second, but we also think that he potentially used his worst tyres or his race 1 tyres. So now we're seeing a difference in car speed, and Jack certainly got plenty of car speed. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next 10 laps or so.
He's been busy this weekend, Jack Perkins, also running in the Aussie Race Car Series, and Steve Owen made it really easy. And remember what he said after the last race? Hey, look, the fact is Jack Perkins is not racing for this entire championship. He's doing a couple of events, or as many as he can do in this car. So that was a smart call from Steve.
Certainly was. He's thinking championship, whereas Jack only here for the weekend. He might turn up at Winton. We're not sure yet. So Jack's out to make every post a winner, whereas Steve's thinking about the year. They're not running that car on a lot of budget. They want to get to every round they can. So it's smart not to put any scratches on it and pick up the points. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's got a nice buffer back to third as well.
And this car was used by Jason Bargwanna in sprint gas colours last year. The Jack Perkins car was used by Tim Slade, and we talk about it so often. So many of these cars have great histories from the Championship Series, and they live on in the Fujitsu Series.
Yeah, certainly very good hardware, and that hardware run at the front of the main game at the moment. So certainly some very good equipment that's become available in the Fujitsu Series. These guys are using it to maximum advantage.
Owen Kelly down the inside at turn 3. And James Moffat will follow him through.
These guys got together in race 1. They've had a few dramas in races 2 and 3, but here they are, find themselves together racing again in race 3. So it'll be interesting to see if Moff just plays a bit of Morse code on the back of Owen Kelly's rear bumper.
Wayne Miles, the East Coast Traffic Control Falcon, has found the sand. That looks like it's on the exit of turn 2. It's been a big step up for the former Speedway racer. The safety car is on the track at Queensland Raceway. We'll take a break. More race 3 when we come back. Back at Queensland Raceway with the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. The safety car has been on the circuit while we were away. The race restarted. There's been plenty going on. James Moffat trying to recover some ground. Got through on Owen Kelly and then made this move on Nick Percat as well.
Yeah, great move up the inside. Percat with a small front wheel lock-up, and we see Moff still got plenty of oversteer with that car, but it's got speed.
Owen Kelly gave the V8 rookie Nick Percat a bit of a rub at turn 2 and charged on by, but Tim Blanchard in the fight for 4th grabbed that spot from David Russell, and the former Formula 4 champs look strong.
Certainly do, and we see now Moffat up the inside turn 3, popular place to get the job done. Moff just turns it in. We still see that oversteer, so the car's not really behaving itself, but James is still going forward and driving a very smart race.
We're riding with Rodney Jane back in 11th. Flat spotted a tyre on the first lap and has really struggled ever since. He's in behind Drew Russell in the Zamana anti-logger Falcon.
Makes for a long 22 laps when you've locked up on lap 1. You've got a flapping tyre. It's very unnerving. You're not really sure whether the tyre's going to last. We see Russell there, a lock-up. We're seeing a lot of brake lock-ups late in the race as Rodney tries to get up the inside, gets the job done for the run down to turn 1. But a lot of these guys having brake lock-ups, and they're probably, as the fuel load burns out, they're not adjusting their brake bias enough.
You heard on the upshifts there's a change in the Fujitsu Series this year as Russell gets back down the inside on the run to turn 2.
We saw Rodney have a massive understeer at turn 1, and again, here we are in turn 2. Look at the amount of steering lock he's got on. Lots and lots of steering lock, and I would imagine that Rodney's locked up the left front tyre, and that's the one that's giving him a huge amount of understeer.
And the point I was just going to make before, we saw a great shot there. The cars in the Fujitsu Series this year permitted to use the sequential gearbox for the first time. Last year, they still had to stay with the H pattern, and virtually all of the main teams have switched to the sequential.
Certainly makes the cars much easier to drive for the people with not as much V8 Supercar experience. To be able to just use a sequential, that certainly gets them up to speed much quicker about learning the intricacies of driving a V8 Supercar.
James Moffat closing in here on the car that he drove to second in the championship last year. Tim Blanchard is now behind the wheel, the son of former Formula Ford and touring car racer John Blanchard. spent some time in the UK, finished runner-up in the British Formula 4 Championship, and Moffat's car is all over the place on the exit of turn 2.
That thing looked more like a sprint car than a V8 Supercar, the amount of opposite lock that Moff had going there. So we've talked about it all race, that the car's been very oversteery, but still got good speed. So although the tyres are probably not going to be any use to him after this race, he's still making good ground, still going forward.
It's been a good run too, just in front from Blanchard. They had a clamp on the host of the oil cooler come off in qualifying. He still managed to qualify 4th. He's going to get a test run with the Gulf Western Oils team in the main championship series, but here's the replay of Moffat sideways and nearly 4 off the road.
You can see the bumps in the middle of turn 2. That's where it started. Just as James Moffat tried to pick the throttle up in the middle of turn 2, the car stepped out, and we can see it there again at turn 1. So we'll just watch the car through here at turn 2 again, whether it has the same oversteer. There they go, right in the middle of turn 2, and the same result, out in the dirt. And I reckon James will be a pretty frustrated boy under the helmet in there.
And it's a really graphic representation. You've got a car, a former Triple Eight car with links to that team still, an FPR car, so different in the way that they respond.
Well, these cars, we wouldn't know exactly what the numbers were, but I would imagine that the X888 car that Tim Blanchard is driving, much softer, much more compliant over the bumps, whereas the FPR car that James Moffat's driving, much stiffer on the springs, and you can see there's got very good speed on the turn into the apex, but it's not getting out of the corner as well. So that's probably the two difference between a Triple Eight style car and an FPR style car.
As I mentioned, Tim Blanchard is going to get a test drive with the Lucas Dumbrell Motorsport team, and it sounds like Paul Morris is impressed by him stepping up to the mark pre-round 2.
Yeah, well, Tim was the only bloke that said, hey, that's not bad. If I'll give it a crack and try and beat the dude, and Paul's usually a man of his word, so he'll probably give Tim a test, and he knows his dad, John. They used to race Super Touring together, so be good to see young Tim get a chance in one of the Morris V8 Supercars.
Oh, David Russell has had a tough start to this championship, and it's got even tougher. He's off the road on the exit of turn 1, rejoins at turn 2, and that drops him way back outside the top 10.
So we just see on the replay from Rodney Jones' car, loses the rear on the bumps on the way into turn 1, out in the marbles and dirt, and actually went all the way around. Very, very lucky to get out to the other side of that gravel trap.
So easily could have been stuck there and ended the race right there, right then, but Jack Perkins has driven away. This tyre strategy has been fantastic from the third generation racer. He's on his way home in the third and final race. He hasn't won a Fujitsu race since 2008, so this is a nice return to the championship.
It certainly is, and great opportunity for Jack to get some laps in a V8 Supercar. Not too sure that he's actually got himself a gig lined up for Phillip Island or Bathurst yet, so not a bad bit of advertising.
James Moffat slowing on the exit of turn 3. This is crazy. What's going on here? It looks like
the way he's swerving, you'd think it's out of fuel. So, you know, one lap to go. You'd hope that they got the fuel numbers right. As we see Jack Perkins bring it home. Massive gap back to second place. Great drive.
Jack Perkins, a one-off start. He takes race 3. That will put him on the podium for the weekend. But the round win for the second time in a row. Steve Owen, the championship leader, extends the margin. Paul Morris home in third. Tim Blanchard not too far behind the dude. He finishes in 4th. And Owen Kelly brings the Meadowland Commodore up to 5th. It's on, even into the last corner. Rodney Jane and Ant Pedersen arguing over 10th place. And it's the Bob Jane Team Arts Falcon that will hold on. So an interesting second round of the Fujitsu Series. James Moffat, his championship is falling off the rails so quickly. Strange one there for the Norton 360 Falcon, but Jack Perkins is the man who takes race 3. Morris in 3rd, Blanchard in 4th. Good drive from Marcus Zekanovic to finish in 6th. Jeff Emery in 8th. Drew Russell and Rodney Jane rounding out the top 10. Good job too, Nathan Vince from Western Australia in 14th, but James Moffat and David Russell both fail to finish in race 3, and they give away some championship points to the Fujitsu Series contenders. Morris, Perkins and Owen on the podium. The dude's enjoyed his weekend, but Jack has probably enjoyed it even more.
Jack, congratulations on the race win, second for the round. You did everything to get here and the hard work's paid off.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great. I mean, to put my own team together, I really need to thank a lot of people, and Paul Morris in particular, James Rosenberg for his car, Super G Back Your Check for being so loyal to me, and great one, always take a win any day.
Now, Paul Morris did say before this round that if anyone beat him, they'd give him a test. Are you going to go asking your boss for a test in his car shortly?
Well, he gives me a job, so if I ask him for any more than that, I might get me ass kicked. But no, it was good to beat everyone today, and I love winning races.
So Jack finishes second for round 2. Tim Blanchard and Nick Percat just outside. Marcus Zukanovic 10th for the weekend, but for the second round in a row, it's a Steve Owen win.
Steve, congratulations. 2 rounds so far, 2 wins. What's next for you and the team?
Yeah, hopefully go to Winton and win there. So to everyone at Greg Murphy Racing and our sponsors Earthex, it's a credit to those guys that we didn't quite have the pace this weekend, but we still managed to make a result. And that's the sort of thing that wins championships.
Owen leaps away now to a 141-point margin. Tim Blanchard moves up to second, but from Ant Pedersen right back through to David Russell, it's tightly contested in the Fujitsu series. So you don't have to wait long for the next round in the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. Round 3 takes us to Winton Motor Raceway in central Victoria. It all supports races 11 and 12 in the V8 Supercar Championship Series. Thanks to Garth Tander, I'm Aaron Noonan. We'll see you next time.